Well, the reason we got a wood-burning stove, I think, is because they're easy to install, easy to maintain, give off really good heat, and at the price of fuel nowadays, it's cheap heat.
After a couple of hydro-blackouts,
Yes.
we bought a wood-burning stove so that we would be confident that we wouldn't be left without heat anymore.
For the cost of oil, gas, electricity, I live out on the farm, rural hydro is really high, and I got about 10 acres of bush to clear, and that's cheap fuel.
More and more people are buying and installing solid fuel stoves, not just in cottages and country homes, but in townhouses as well. In remote areas, it's for their reliability, where oil and electricity supplies are expensive and liable to be cut off in bad weather. Elsewhere, the stove is fast becoming a fashionable centerpiece for in-town entertaining. And for those who are concerned about energy conservation, a well-designed, well-maintained stove can economically supply heat, hot water, even cooking facilities, often using inexpensive, locally available fuels. In the good old days, any smithy worth his salt could properly install and maintain a solid fuel stove. But these skills are rarer today. And while a good running stove can be a source of pleasure and satisfaction, one that is not installed and maintained correctly can be a real danger. So it's vital, if you plan to install a stove, to get expert advice and follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully. If you have any doubts or queries, phone your local fire department beforehand. A stove must be kept well clear of combustible walls and partitions. If there is no other protection, the recommended minimum is 900 millimeters, about 3 feet. If a metal or asbestos shield is used, or if the wall itself is non-combustible, the stove may be moved slightly closer. The stove must stand on a non-combustible floor, or the floor must be protected by sheet metal over asbestos cement or asbestos millboard. This pad should extend 450 millimeters, or 18 inches, in front of the stove, far enough to prevent live embers falling onto unprotected floor when ashes are removed. On the other three sides, the floor pad should extend 150 millimeters, 6 inches beyond the stove. The stove itself, while not necessarily new, should be in good condition and working order. One way to assure yourself of the quality of a new stove is to look for the label of the Canadian Standards Association or Underwriters Laboratories of Canada before you buy. When the stove is mounted on the insulated pad, it must be absolutely secure, with no risk at all of it toppling over. In many ways, the chimney is the most critical component in terms of safety because of the very high temperatures produced when burning solid fuel. The flue pipe and chimney must be properly constructed so that even if they catch fire, there is no risk of them collapsing. Where the factory-built chimney passes through ceilings, these must be protected from heat and risk of fire by using an insulated thimble. A masonry-built chimney or a factory-built chimney specially designed for use with solid fuel is essential. If factory-built, look for the ULC label. Above all, remember that a chimney designed for use with oil or gas may not be used for solid fuel. If you originally had a coal or wood-burning furnace in your home, restoration of the original system should be relatively easy. But the chimney must be examined by an expert to make sure it's in good order. Once the stove is installed, operating is relatively simple. Common sense should tell you to keep combustible materials, including fuel and furniture, a safe distance away, at least 900 millimeters. Don't overheat the stove. Don't use any liquids to help light the stove. And always keep its doors firmly shut, or see that it is shielded by an effective fire screen. Maintenance is largely a matter of keeping both stove and chimney clean and in good condition. The chimney must be cleaned regularly and inspected at least once by someone with experience. Someone like chimney sweep Don Sadler.
I wouldn't even clean the chimneys if the people asked me. I can just see from a quick visual inspection outside the brickwork is not safe. And I know these chimneys are still being used for a different type of fossil fuel. And I wouldn't even attempt because I value my life and I would not. I refuse to do a job where I saw and could see visual deterioration of brick.
By observing these simple rules, the stove owner should enjoy years of safe, enjoyable service from his stove. No one knows this better than Bill McDonald, after many years of experience as a fire chief.
Bill, how do you feel about wood stoves yourself? Would you recommend one? Or would you use one yourself?
Yes, I wouldn't be without one if I had a choice.
Do you have one yourself?
Not at the moment, but I intend when I retire to build a home and probably install the most impractical solid fuel burning appliance of them all, a stone fireplace.
Oh. Well, what about the average citizen? Say they want to install a wood stove in their home. How do they go about it? Is there a wide variety of them, and how would they choose one?
Yes, there's a variety that suits most every need, from appearance, and probably the appearance will be the big thing that will sell a wood stove, whereas probably the thing that should be considered most is how efficient is it. And I think before you select any solid fuel burning stove, that you should first ask yourself, what do you want it to do? You know, if you want it for the occasional Saturday night, that's one type of stove. If you want it for appearance, it may be another type of stove altogether. If you want to heat your home with it, or cottage, certainly you're going to have a stove that will give you some efficiency. Otherwise, it'll cost you a fortune unless you have lots of wood or coal available.
What kind of safety standards are there on various models?
Well, of course, the National Building Code sets forth the requirements for installing heating equipment. In actual fact, residential standards sets down the various guidelines for clearances and whatnot. And most of that information is readily available from the building officials or from the local fire department, or some of the local governments, provincial and so on, have developed booklets because of the current trend to wood burning and, of course, coal.
Do you think people get enough help with that kind of thing, or they just want to rush out and buy a wood stove and install it without getting all the proper information?
Well, I think today we have a do-it-yourself society based on the fact that labor is so expensive. And I believe that many people tend to think that they can do those things themselves, when in actual fact it is not a difficult job if they know the basic safety requirements.
Are there people available to install those kind of stoves now?
Yes, I think if you consult the yellow pages of your telephone book, you'll find quite a good list of people that are available to install heating equipment.
Would they be kind of like building contractors, or would you get...
Normally, they're heating and ventilating people that will do that type of work. And of course, if you want a chimney built, you'd have to go to a stonemason.
So people really have to check out all the different areas when they want to buy one, and then when they're installing them.
I think it's very important to determine what you want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, once you determine what you want to do with it, find out what safety requirements you must meet to install it properly. And those safety requirements are available, as I said, the local fire department or building officials. And once you have determined that in relation to your own requirements, of course, then if you have the ability to do it yourself, so much the better. If you haven't got the ability to do it yourself, then by all means you should get someone that is qualified.
Are there any kind of living situations which would not be suitable for those kind of stoves, where they really would be a hazard?
Well, many people that live in mobile homes would like very much to have a fireplace. And until recently, there hasn't been a fireplace suitable for use in a mobile home. Within the last year or so, there has been one fireplace listed for use in a mobile home. And the basic difficulty, of course, is operating solid fuel burning appliance in a confined space and depleting the oxygen supply. Whereas the conventional one that was approved for a mobile home takes its burning air from outside, or combustion air from outside, and it is properly designed for that use. So they should be very careful if, in fact, they want to install a fireplace in a mobile home to make sure that it is a listed fireplace.
Okay, what about people who are conservation conscious? They want to install a wood stove. Is the initial expense of putting it in, is it going to be beneficial in the long run? It's going to be cheaper in the long run to burn?
Well, it depends, of course, on how much you must pay for wood or coal, and the relative price of the alternative fuels, electricity or oil. Some of the booklets that are published gives a comparison of the break-even point. For example, if you're paying 55 cents a gallon for oil, one of the current booklets says you can afford to pay about $55 a cord for wood. Now, in actual fact, a cord of wood, depending on the efficiency of burning, is equivalent to somewhere between 100 and 200 gallons of oil. So you can see it may not save money. It depends on how much you must pay. On the other hand, if you have lots of wood and you can do it yourself, undoubtedly it's going to be a good investment.
So really the best place for a stove like this is in the country rather than in city atmosphere.
In a rural setting, something else that hasn't been considered, if many people go to solid fuel, what will be the environmental impact in cities?
Right.
That's something we'll have to face.
Thank you very much.
Well, Jack, my husband, always says that if you treat something with respect, it will repay you many times over, and with this stove, he certainly has been proven right.
Well, the last power failure, we're about the only people on the block with any type of heat. That's because we have a wood stove. As a matter of fact, by the time I got home, my wife had about 18 of the neighbors in for some hot soup and sandwiches. I got one of those about a year ago, and my friends told me that I could install it myself. But the nature of my business takes me in and out of town, so I had the dealer put it in. It's not difficult. After it was in, I had the fire marshal come and take a look at it. We've been very, very happy with it. As far as I'm concerned, it's really a small price to pay for that type of comfort when you really want it.
Solid fuel stoves are safe and reliable if they're properly installed and looked after. That surely is a small price to pay for the assurance that your home and your family are warm and safe.